The moment Althea Moreau rolled her wheelchair-bound son through the sunlit cafe doors, she felt the familiar sting of judgment before a single word was spoken, 1,000 silent questions crashing over her like waves. She was a woman who commanded boardrooms and bent markets to her will, yet in that instant, dressed in a soft linen blazer instead of armor, she felt exposed, terrified, and achingly human. This was supposed to be a simple blind date arranged by a well-meaning colleague, a rare attempt at normalcy in a life dominated by responsibility and sacrifice. Instead, it felt like a final test of her courage, because she had chosen not to hide her son, not to apologize for him, and not to pretend her life was easier than it was. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us what truly matters, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Single Dad Diaries. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Althea had built her success from grit and sleepless nights, becoming the youngest female CEO in her industry after losing her husband and nearly everything else in a tragic accident years earlier. That same accident had left her little boy, Caden, paralyzed from the waist down, a bright child trapped in a body that refused to cooperate. The world admired Althea's resilience from a distance, applauded her for doing it all, but they never saw the quiet mornings filled with physical therapy, the spreadsheets reviewed beside hospital beds, or the way her heart clenched every time someone looked away from her son too quickly. This blind date was supposed to be a small step back into a personal life she had buried, but bringing Caden along was not a mistake. It was a declaration that any future she allowed into her life had to accept all of it. The cafe was flooded with daytime light, warm and hopeful, the kind of place where laughter usually felt easy. Althea spotted the men from the photo almost immediately, sitting near the window with a cup of coffee and a posture that suggested patience rather than entitlement. His name was Rowan Hale, a single father and freelance architect, according to the brief description she had been given. Still, Althea braced herself for the moment his eyes would flicker to the wheelchair, for the tightening of his smile, for the awkward sympathy that always followed. She had seen it too many times to count, but when Rowan looked up, something unexpected happened. His attention moved first to Caden's face, not the chair, and his expression softened in a way that felt genuine rather than rehearsed. Althea felt her chest tighten, suspicion warring with hope, as memories of past rejections resurfaced. Men who claimed to admire her strength until they realized the weight of her reality. Men who vanished politely after one meeting. She reminded herself not to expect anything, not even decency, because expectation was a dangerous thing. As they settled at the table, Althea noticed small details she hadn't prepared for. Rowan adjusted the chairs without fuss, creating space naturally, as though inclusion was second nature to him. He carried himself with the quiet weariness of someone who had loved deeply and lost, someone who knew responsibility intimately. Althea learned through casual conversation that Rowan's daughter spent her days at school and afternoons with her grandmother while he worked, that his wife had passed from illness years before, leaving him to navigate grief and parenthood alone. There was no competition in their shared struggles, only recognition, a silent acknowledgement that life had not been gentle with either of them. Caden, usually shy around strangers, surprised Althea by relaxing, his bright curiosity emerging as he took in the cafe's buzzing daytime rhythm. Althea watched Rowan notice this too, not intrusively, but with an awareness that felt protective. For the first time in years, Althea felt the sharp edge of her vigilance dull slightly. She spoke about her work, her responsibilities, the balancing act that defined her days, and she did not minimize the challenges of raising a child with disabilities. She refused to package her life into something more palatable, and she waited for the inevitable discomfort. Instead, Rowan's reaction stunned her. There was no pity, no attempt to fix or soften her reality. He simply listened, absorbing every word, his attention steady. Althea felt something loosen inside her, a knot she hadn't realized was permanent. This man was not intimidated by her success or overwhelmed by her motherhood. He saw them as parts of a whole, not obstacles to be negotiated. The afternoon stretched on, sunlight shifting across the table as the cafe grew quieter. Althea became acutely aware of how long it had been since she had laughed without checking the time, since she had felt seen without explanation. She thought of the countless moments she had chosen solitude over vulnerability, believing it was safer for Caden, believing love was a luxury she could no longer afford. Yet here she was, realizing that perhaps love was not something that demanded perfection, but honesty. As they prepared to leave, Althea noticed how Rowan addressed Caden directly, with respect and warmth, acknowledging him as an individual rather than an extension of her. That simple act sent a wave of emotion through her, a reminder of how rarely the world did that. In that moment, she understood that this blind date had already changed something fundamental within her. Not because it promised romance, but because it restored her faith in humanity. Just before the ending, special request, please comment below and share what this story made you feel or reminded you of. Outside, the daytime air felt lighter, and Althea paused, watching Rowan walk alongside them, not ahead, not behind. She realized that the greatest challenges of her life had carved out a capacity for love deeper than she had imagined. She thought of Caden's future, of her own guarded heart, and of the possibility that some people didn't see limitations where others did, only opportunities to show up differently. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that compassion can appear when you least expect it, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement tells us these stories matter and helps them reach others who may need hope today. As Althea wheeled her son toward the sunlit street, she carried something she hadn't felt in years, not certainty, but quiet courage. Sometimes, she realized, the most powerful reactions are not loud or dramatic, but gentle enough to heal old wounds, and brave enough to change the course of a life.